I like that I'm not perfect, and I probably never will be. I don't want to be. Fear of not being good enough or fear of not having enough. I know who I am without all of that. So when bankruptcy came and your money gets taken away, no, I'm still okay. Well, you haven't actually failed, you've learnt. When you're doing something that you love and it comes from passion, that for me is the driving force to see other people succeed.
You approach business with empathy.
The universe just sometimes really puts you where you need to be when you need to be there.
Hi, I'm Elina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence.
Thought about it. It doesn't.
We're good. Drama, controversy.
So she was the driver for getting back to this was a good bag.
Yeah, I love to design all that thing. People who trusted me with sharing their stories. Hi, I'm Elina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence. Today we're chatting with Melanie Burnicle, who is a Business Influencer of the Year. Melanie, I am so proud of you. And first of all, thank you so much for flying into Melbourne from Sydney.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show.
And thank you to Sofitel for providing this beautiful space for our interview.
Aren't we lucky?
Tell me about this award that you have won.
Yeah, so the Stevie Awards for Women in Business recognise women globally. When you're doing something that you love and it comes from passion, that for me is the driving force to see other people succeed. But then when you're recognised by your peers and on a global level, it really does kind of hit home that you're doing a good job. Because you know what it's like in business when you're working for yourself a lot of the time. You pat yourself on the back going, okay, come on, get up, keep going. And there's so many things, but then to be recognised globally, it really just helps to ensure on my own personal level that I am moving in the right direction and that the businesses are growing. And yeah, you get to help all the people, but sometimes it's nice for someone else to go, hey, you've done a great job. And you're like, oh, actually, yeah, thank you, I have, which is a really nice feeling.
There were so many entries.
Yeah.
And you battled through all of them. And
I do love winning.
Yes, and you were a finalist and you have won.
Yeah.
And you had to fly all the way to Las Vegas to receive the award.
I had to, yes. You know, it was a real privilege to be there. And I think when you go overseas, you're never expecting to win like a big award like that. And I've won like a couple now, but you still go into it with the same nerves but also a sense of gratitude that to be a finalist amongst a global playing field, for me, that's enough to go, yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at, but then to actually take it out. And normally I've got no problem talking, but when you're walking up to a stage and the adrenaline's kicking in and your legs are shaking, I'm like, what's going on? But it's just this amazing feeling and the doors that it opens up for you. So from Las Vegas, after winning the award, I met a couple of people at the event, and one of the other ladies and I really just connected. And I said, oh, I'm headed to New York. She's like, oh, me too. I said, oh, do you want to catch up for dinner? I love meeting new people as well. So we caught up for dinner and she was exactly the right person to help me launch my business into the US market.
Oh, wow.
So it was just, I didn't even know because I was doing my media interview when she was accepting her award. So I missed what she'd won for. And then we were chatting later on. And so I Googled her on the way to dinner in New York. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. The universe just sometimes really puts you where you need to be when you need to be there. And so then she invited me to an event with the Australian Consulate in New York. And then they've sort of gone, we love what you're doing for the creative industry. How can we help? And you're like, what? Like, you think you want to help me? And, when you've done so much of the hard work on your own, to have these doors opened up for you is incredible. But you have to put yourself in that position to be judged, basically. Not in a bad way, but your business is then being judged against someone else's business. And am I there yet? And if you don't win, it's totally okay as well, because it's like, okay, you sit back and look at what can I work on. And that's what I'd done in years where I hadn't won, like I might have won the silver or the bronze when I first started entering, which still was great to be recognised globally for that.
And you learn a lot by actually not winning as well.
You learn so much more by failing. Like I always think for me, and what I try and teach in like the education that I teach, is finding the success in failure. Because the more I've failed, which has been a lot on so many levels, but the more you fail, the more you learn. You don't win when you already know something. It's winning on a different level because you're being acknowledged for what you already know. But when you fail, you have to learn and you have to be open to, okay, I'm not right there yet. So what else do I need to bring into my repertoire or do to be at that level? And that's the beauty of it. And I think a lot of people see your success, but they don't see that I was nearly bankrupt in 2018. They don't know that. I had to move out of my apartment, move in with a friend in my 40s.
That's tough.
It's
really
tough. And then we literally just get out of, paid everything off so I didn't have to declare bankruptcy because I would have lost all of my businesses. Wouldn't be able to work for myself, and what I do helps other people. For me, that was just a non-negotiable. I was working like 20 hours a day. I made myself sick, but I was like, I'm not. Like, this is just no. When you've got lawyers and accountants going, declare bankruptcy, you'll be out of it, done. I'm like, and no, it's the principle behind it. I made a mistake. I didn't get people to sign a non-compete. They copied what we were doing, and then they went out and did it. It's a learning process. Do I now have people sign on the dotted line? This is a non-compete, a non-disclosure. Yes, I learnt the hard way.
Share with us, what are the businesses that you are running?
Yeah, okay. So everyone's like, God, why? Like, can you just not do one thing? It's never been in my wheelhouse, ever. There's the creative me, and then there's the business me. Every business that I've had, they intertwine, and the businesses sort of all balance and work in harmony with each other. So I started with my own little production company called 222 Group. We produce podcasts, we bring in creative artists for brand activation. So brands will come and say, right, we're doing this activation. And then we get to employ other artists and bring them on board for the job. We bring in camera crews, whatever's needed for the actual work. We don't act like a regular agency or other businesses. What I learned being with other agents is that there needs to be, in this day and age, flexibility, and that's what we provide. And for me, being able to generate work for other artists is something that's really important to me, and having them paid properly for the work that they're doing is very important. And then because my background was makeup artist and hairstylist, but then I was always organising shoots, that's how 222 Group started. And also I loved education, so we were bringing out international artists before all the big masterclasses were happening. We were doing that. The business evolves and takes a different shape as the world evolves, so you move with it or you get stuck and you don't move forward. Where I like to have that flexible feel to the business, so when it needs to adapt, that we can move and change quickly, and that's really important.
Melanie, as a successful entrepreneur, what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting out?
One foot in front of the other. Like, have your big goals, have the big picture visionary, which is the way my brain functions, and then take it one step at a time. And the best thing is be okay with failing, because you'll learn so much more. And if you accept that failure is part of the process, it makes it so much easier. And you're just like, well, you haven't actually failed, you've learnt. So then the next time you take that step, you'll approach it differently. So be okay, accept that failure is part of the process, and then life will be so much easier. As an artist, I really struggled going, where's my community? Because sometimes you work a lot on your own. There was no one guiding you in the business side of things. I'm like, why isn't there a guild or something looking after us? And I kept looking and talking to people, and there was one years ago, and the Entertainment Arts Alliance didn't really look after part of our industry. I'm like, how can we? I'm like, well, no one else is doing it. I guess if that's what I really want, I need to step in and create it. So then I created the Makeup Artists Guild for Asia Pacific.
I know, by the way, so many makeup artists
You would in your job.
Yes, that dreaming of winning that award. It's amazing. It's such a big thing.
Yeah, it really
in the
is.
makeup artist community in Australia.
It's
anyway.
growing.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we found, like with the industry, with the Makeup Artists Guild, what we found was that the industry itself was quite segregated. So you've got film, TV, fashion, and nobody talked to, it's like, oh, you do this part of the industry, you do that part of the industry. And there was almost like this weird competition or rivalry. And I'm like, well, how do we break down those barriers? Because there's a place for everybody, whether you're a beauty influencer, whether you're a blogger, whether you are a bridal makeup, like there's a place for everybody in our industry. Even if you're working on counter, like that's probably the hardest job out of all of them, I would say. And so for me, how do you break down barriers? Let's bring people together, showcase the diversity of what we do, and then it becomes this sense of community rather than, oh, you're my competition. And that's how I've always, that's where I feel good in the world. So being able to bring people together, and the first year we did it, I actually cried. I'm an emotional Pisces and I cry all the time. That's the creative
maybe that's
in
why
me.
you're so successful, because you take everything so seriously and so close to your heart.
Yeah, and I actually love it. And like, we had email after email after email saying, thank you so much for creating this community. I always felt like I was on my own in the industry. And so it was just consistent. And I was like in tears for 3 days. Mind you, I was tired because I just had worked pretty much 23 hours a day for about 4 days running. If I look at all the things that I do which underlie, I love bringing people together. Also bringing people and elevating them and showcasing the beauty in what they do. And so that's the Makeup Artist Guild and the Makeup Artist Awards. And then with Beauty Boss Business, I was always educating people, like, how did you become successful? How did you do this with your business? How do you do this? And I was always teaching people. And I was like, right, I need to write a course for this. And so I did. And then during COVID, which was just when I was coming out of bankruptcy, and then COVID happened. So I was like, all right, universe, come on. Keep hitting me. Let's just see. I'm still standing. You can't knock me out that easily. I created, it's called the 7C strategy, that helps creatives build conscious business foundations around their craft. And that's something that's really important to me, because you have to come from a place of authenticity and not just like, oh, I need to be the best, but it's like, why do I want to succeed and how can I help?
You approach business with empathy.
Yeah, with the level of consciousness and kindness. And a lot of people, like, look, I noticed this the other day, and this is something, I think I'll work on for a long time. I felt really angry. I'd had like a lot of health issues this whole year, and I literally had a pulmonary embolism, which nearly took me out a few months ago. But I'm never normally frightened. And it was only a couple of weeks ago, I was like, wow, I'm so angry. And I'm not an angry person. I'm always like, oh, glass half full, happiness. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? But I'm aware enough to go, okay, red flags. It took me 2 weeks. I'm like, why do I feel angry? And I was like, oh, wow, I actually feel frightened for the first time. So every time, like, I felt like a little tingle in my heart. I've got a heart monitor in here now. So every time I felt like a little tingle, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. So it was this horrible fright. And so when people come at work or their craft or their business with that level of fear, it's a scary thing, and it's natural. We're humans,
So was it anxiety?
I was angry, and then underneath the anger was the fear that, okay, I could be in hospital, I could be nearly dying again. People do that, but in all different facets of their life, whether it's relationships, whether it's their work, whether it's this, and fear of not being good enough or fear of not having enough. And when you approach work, life through that fear, again, I was coming across really angry, and I was angry, but underneath all of that, there's that fear. So if you can get to the root of that, and it's like, why do I have that fear, And obviously mine was a health issue this time, but when I was younger, it wasn't. It was fear of not being enough. And so a lot of people who are creatives, they're so amazing at what they do, but a lot of people never feel it's enough. And that means it comes back to that they're not enough. When I'm teaching other people, I'm also reiterating that same message to myself. So that message becomes deeper ingrained in me. It feels really true for me. And I think a lot of times in life, you can just do stuff and you're busy doing and you forget to actually acknowledge, oh, wow, that's actually what I'm doing. And that's why I do it. So you're getting to the underlying purpose and the core beliefs that you have. It's like, I actually want to make people feel good if you're a makeup artist. I actually want to help people. I want them to feel confident in who they are. If you're delivering, your pitch as, say, a makeup artist to get a job, whatever it might be, hey, I really think I can deliver on what you're after. And I think, we can work together to get the look that you want from a makeup point of view. Yeah. And when you talk to people like that, you break down the boundaries, people are open, you can have conversations, and you'll get to the end result that they want to have achieved because you've got that open communication. And this is for life. Like, it's not just between a makeup artist and a talent. It's not just between two people doing business together. When you can let go of the ego, and the ego is not like, oh, pump me up. It's not that ego. It's just about where it's the exterior. Yeah. When you get past that and you can actually sit with somebody in that energy, you don't need to fix them. You don't need to say something. You can just be as an example. Yeah. And I think that's something that I'll be working on forever. And I like that I'm not perfect, and I probably never will be. I don't want to be. I tried to be perfect when I was younger, and it set me basically crazy. I ended up going through depression because I was trying to fit into everybody else's ideals of what I should have been. But I just am. And when you know that you're enough and you just are, regardless, I don't identify with my career. Being a makeup artist doesn't make me who I am. Being a global award winner doesn't make me who I am. I know who I am without all of that. So when bankruptcy came and your money gets taken away, no, I'm still okay without it. Financially, it's
yeah. But having that backbone.
And that's just an inner belief. And you can't teach that. It's something that you can show by example. So many people look at the way that the world's presented, and people say, oh, now it's all because social media has this, perfectionism about it. Everyone has to look perfect on Instagram. It was the same thing in magazines when I was younger. Like, I loved the girly magazines, but the faces were all retouched, and, there's always something.
I believe we have come a long way as a society. Now you see people on catwalk, on wheelchairs, which is so amazing that we're trying to be as a society more and more accepting of normal, everyday life
and the diversity.
People. Yeah.
And I think, look, I love a face full of makeup because, again, it doesn't determine who I am. I know who I am. But all of this I get to have fun with. This is just like arts and crafts, but on my face. So for me, that's fun and it's enjoyable, but having a sense of self and understanding, when you can work through life with that, it's so much more peaceful, regardless of whether you're like bankrupt or not,
Melanie, what do you think are the most important qualities in a business person?
Oh, I definitely would say discipline is key, and then self-belief. You've just got to trust your gut and know that it's okay to make mistakes. You've got to try, you'll fail, you'll succeed, but just be open to the experience of it all.
Go back to how you were raised. Where were you born? You were born in Sydney?
Born and bred in Sydney. I'm the eldest of four. I don't know, I called it eldest child syndrome. We're always bossy, determined.
You have the leadership position in the family.
Yes. But, when I was younger, I was trying to direct dancing in the caravan park and putting all everyone together going, right, we're going to do a showcase. And my sisters would be like, why? My parents bought a farm when I was 13. So they ran a Sydney business and they ran the farm as a business. So I guess my work ethic comes from them. They worked 7 days a week and they're really, both of them are really strong people within their own right, which means sometimes we butted heads a lot because I'm quite a strong personality, and when you're younger you're trying to figure out who you are, and people want the best for you, so they're telling you who you should be, and then you're like, I'm going to be this, and I wanted to be a performer on stage. The jazz hands never leave.
Well, now you're on stage receiving awards.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a different place to be. Yeah, we had a great childhood, and dancing, at school, I always did quite well at school, but I didn't really feel It was my happy place. There's so many people that just, you have to follow a certain path because that's what you were told. And I tried doing that, and I ended up going through depression in my sort of late teens, early 20s.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well...
What do you think
I used to feel like sad about it all, but looking back now, I guess, we were talking about success and failure. And I guess when you think that you have to be this perfect child, again, eldest child syndrome, dot your I's, cross your T's, and be that level of like, great all the time. That's like the pressure you kind of felt. And that was probably more something that I put on myself than anybody else, because I did want to be great, but for the wrong reasons. That was to create that identity. So, but for me, like when I went through depression, it was like 3.5 years. Like I went to a psychiatrist because I was just really, really unhappy. And everyone always saw me as like the happy party person or this and that, but underneath I was like broken. And at the time, horrific, like hated every minute of it. I'm sure I turned up hungover to therapy so many times, so I was like partially not there. And then I was like, oh, hang on, this is costing me a lot of money. Like, how about we not turn up hungover and actually start dealing with this? I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that'll work. It really sets you up with some tools for life.
Melanie, is there someone who inspired you? Someone that you look up to?
Many people actually, but I have to say my grandmas, they were both really independent.
So you're maternal and paternal?
Yeah, both of them. One grandma could create something out of nothing, like we'd have remnants of fabric and then the next thing you know, it'd have a costume. And the other grandma really instilled different sets of values and discipline, which I think for me really is part of who I am. And I love that I can be a strong businesswoman, but still be kind. And I don't need all the fancy things to know who I am, because you could do and create something out of nothing with just your imagination.
Wonderful. Melanie, what are the projects you're working on right now?
All right, there's always a lot.
I know there's so many exciting ones that you've got on.
Yeah, I feel very privileged that there's always so many little things going on. So we're working on a big Chemist Warehouse showcase. So I get asked by one of the brands to come on board and work with them over the few days. So we have all of the beauty press coming in. We have all the beauty influencers coming in. As much as it's fun and we get to play with all the products, which, I'll never get tired of this lifetime. A lot of the beauty press I've known for years when I worked for different brands across different events and things. So it's almost like a bit of a family reunion. And then other projects we're working on at the moment, we're going to just about ready to launch the Makeup Artist Awards for entries, and we've also now got the Beauty Boss Awards, because when we were looking at all the awards that we create for the industry within the makeup realm, so many people like me do a million different things. So they've got their own product lines, they've got their own shows, they've got their own online stores. So I'm like, why aren't they being celebrated? We created the Beauty Boss Awards as well as the Makeup Artist Guild Awards. So we're about to open those up and get ready for entries, which means then I'm sourcing all of my international judges. Being Australia, it's such a small country compared to other countries in the world. I really make sure that all of our judging panel is fair and they're always international, because everyone here knows each other or of each other. And I think to keep it authentic and honest, that we really need to have international judging panels, so it's no favoritism, it's none of that. It's really important to me that it's done with that level of authenticity. But it also gets the artists and people here in business recognised by the international people, and then they get to go on stage in New York, then they get to go because we love what that girl did. So again, it's about building those people up and then putting them on, a world stage with what we're doing. I'm preparing to go back to America, fingers crossed, if we get the all clear, by sort of late January next year. Hopefully we can get to Miami for a big show there at the end of January. Also maybe we're looking at Bologna for a big industry event. We've got an interview series, Beauty Boss Business, which is just about to launch. So we did a pilot show for that. So that's all sort of coming to fruition, which we're going to film globally. And then I also host another interview series for a big online education platform, and that's called Learning Without Limits.
Oh, I love the name.
Again,
so empowering.
Yes, they have my company do pre-production and production and post-production, and we love that. Like, it's great.
Melanie, thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to us. We wish you all the best with your future plans.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down and interviewing me. It's been such a treat. Thanks, Elina.
Enjoy Melbourne.
I will.